Wednesday, July 19th, 2017 meeting of the Lake Havasu City Airport Advisory Board. Begin the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please join me. Randy, would you conduct a roll call, please?
Yes, Shannon Stebbins.
Here.
Louis Worthy. Dave McNary.
Here.
Steve Huff.
Here.
Brian Schultz.
Here.
Jeff Sayer.
Here.
Shannon Hicks.
Here.
Mr. Chairman, we do have a quorum.
Thank you. I'd like to begin by welcoming our two new members to the Airport Advisory Board, Mr. Brian Schultz and Shannon Hicks. And if you would, just tell us a little bit about your background and what brought you to the airport board.
I've been in Lake Havasu since 2009, been flying since '99, been a flight instructor since 2002, and I've been actively flying here pretty much since I came, but definitely have been more active in the last couple years and got involved with Civil Air Patrol and was kind of urged a little bit by them that the Airport Advisory Board would be another great thing to be involved with.
Thank you for your service. We appreciate it. Ms. Hicks?
Shannon Hicks, and I've been in town for off and on over 30 years, since 1974. I've been flying since 1985, and went to Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University, got my degree, and came back to Havasu and started flight instructing, and been teaching actively at the airport. Family owns a business here in town, and been urged by many people to participate in the Airport Advisory Board. I'm also the president of the EAA chapter and vice chairman for the 99, so pretty actively involved in a lot of aviation organizations. So this is just another one I guess I should be helping out with.
Thank you as well. Begin the meeting with a call to the public. This is your time to talk about anything that concerns the airport. If it's not on the agenda, we can't respond directly to anything that's brought up. However, we can refer it to staff, or we can put it on the agenda for a future meeting. So we have anybody in the public that would like to speak? Seeing none, we'll move on to the item 5, which is approval of the June 21st, 2017 meeting minutes. Minutes were provided to you. I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
Motion to approve. Second.
All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Unanimously approved. Communications, announcements, and airport supervisors report. We'll turn it over to Mr. Steve Johnson, the airport supervisor.
All right, we'll try to make this short, but you know me. This might go for a wee bit. We are scheduled to meet with the FAA down in Phoenix next Wednesday for airport CIP meeting, talking about future grant projects. That'll include FAA representatives, be at their office actually, ADOT, CNS engineers, and Kaufman Associates, the folks that we're going to have do our master plan. City staff will be there as well. I said that we had a draft project list, which I don't think we attached here, but in the last couple of packets you've seen it. It's the numerous projects we have for grant funding at the airport. We are waiting to go ahead on the ADOT foreign object degree grant project. I believe 100% review is near, and once we get the approval from ADOT, we will go to bid on that. The plans and specs are all done, so the goal is to get that moving no later than this August. The electrical vault project, has been reviewed by FAA. We've been given a verbal okay to move forward on the advertisement. And they have advised us, because they really want to move this, to do a slight shortening of the advertisement time span. And the advertisements will be in the local paper, I believe, this Saturday, and then in the local paper next Saturday, and in the Business Gazette the 29th and the 2nd of August, if I recall correctly. So now there'll be a non-mandatory pre-bid meeting. That'll be the 3rd out at the airport for any of the contractors that are interested in that. So that's moving. And I don't recall if I mentioned this the last time we had a meeting, but ADOT had a board meeting, airport manager board meeting for Arizona last week. ADOT has advised that their 4.5 share for federal grants, which they're still doing at this point, up to about 2019 or 2020, of that match, and we'll use the electrical vault as an example. It's a 91.6% federal and then a 4.5 state. If the project requires a grant amendment for additional funds, the feds will go for that up to 15%. And you never want to go that route, but they'll go up to a maximum of 15. Because of the state's financial situation, whatever the original amount is that they give us, we're stuck with that. If there's any additional, it's coming out of our pocket, not the states, but our locally. But again, the federal is a non-issue. We'll be applying a pavement rejuvenator on the Alpha 2 taxiway connector, and bits of the runway where we had a C-130 sort of go through the top patina of that lousy overlay job that happened 3 years ago. We've put that rejuvenator, which I'm sure you've seen when you're flying at the airport, on Alpha 1. It'll give us a lifespan on that pavement to extend it for another 4 years and keep the pavement from raveling up the way that it has. So we'll be doing that out on Alpha 2 and the runway. In these kind of weather conditions, when we apply it, maybe not on Alpha 2 because it's a large area, but the small areas on the runway that we apply it to, it'll probably dry in about 45 minutes or thereabouts. And we'll apply it early in the morning when there's no flights, no traffic. The 15th of July, windstorm took out a tree and antenna and damaged some cars, and that's all being taken care of. The AWAS was inspected a couple days ago, and it's working and fine. We're repairing a couple air conditioning units at the terminal, which seems to be dragging on, unfortunately. On the 27th of June, a request went to the City Council to change Hangar Way to George Molitor Way. I believe a sign is being created as we speak, and again, City Council approved that. So that's finally done, or going to be finally done. Staff continues to have discussions with Hangar 24 on the Airfest air show, which is going to be November 4th. That's a Saturday. Paperwork for military flybys has been signed. They've sent some paperwork in for the next 2 or 3 years for the same. That'll be signed and sent off. We'll be meeting with them on Friday the 28th, and I've invited the EAA, the 99s, the Civil Air Patrol staff to be at that meeting as well. And so I believe that'll be at 10 o'clock at the terminal. Once we start to get timelines, I'll be talking to all the FBOs, because there's liable to be some closure of the airport during that event day for certain periods of time. Staff will be working up a policy for our shade port tenants. There's been some misunderstandings of where cars are parked. So we'll be putting something together on that. We're working on cleaning up the central parking lot, which is just to the north of the two large hangars that are over by Desert Skies. We have some folks that are not paying for parking there, so we'll work that through. In the time between this meeting and our last, a couple of our longtime tenants have passed on. Reb Wallace, who was a light sport operator at the airport, and Bill Hain. Bill flew a P-51 and an AT-6 Texan, and they've both gone west. And as part of my report this time, I'd like to have Mark Clark come up and explain some changes at the airport in regards to the organization.
Thank you, Steve. Good afternoon, board and chair. As of July 1st, the airport was placed under the Maintenance Services Division. It had previously kind of been under the operations director. The city has moved forward without having an operations director. So there's two superintendents, myself handling basically all of maintenance not related to utilities, and then Andy Astor is handling water and wastewater utilities. I think that'll have some advantages. I've also been asked to kind of emphasize airport projects and airport areas. This year, for example, there's really no money in the budget for airport maintenance related to like heavy pavement stuff. But there is funding available in the MSD budget general fund that we would have normally prioritized walking paths and parking lots, but we'll take a bigger view of the world and see what needs to be done critically. And so that airport will be a part of that process. Steve and I have also talked about maybe upgrading some of the signs. MSD has control of the sign shop, so that makes that easy. So we'll be moving forward with those activities. I've been involved in the periphery of the airport for years, was aware of when Ted was dealing with all the hangar issues of moving the hangars up from the old island airport. Been with Lake Havasu City since 1994, so I'm very familiar with the issues and things and fun things that happen at the airport. But I think it'll be a very positive thing, and we're looking forward to that. Just a couple of things to add to Steve's report. In addition to the advertisement in the newspapers, that project will be advertised on the city's website, and also on the city uses a demand star, which is kind of a construction trade advertisement process. So that we'll be sure and get that project out to a lot of people to take a look at it. And also, I'd like to compliment Steve and the engineering group. Steve got a phone call from FAA and wanted this project advertised as soon as possible. I think that was yesterday. Well, Tuesday. So there you go. And we were able to get with engineering. They reshuffled some paperwork, and it's advertising, now basically we have to notify the newspapers, so it takes a couple days. But the reality of it is engineering up to the plate. We appreciate that very much, recognizing that this is grant funding and we don't want to jeopardize that. So I think that was a very positive thing. We're looking forward to maybe opening some doors that have been closed over the years as far as, just how much expenditure at the airport. The city manager has asked me to kind of emphasize that area. That doesn't mean that we won't still be doing all the other fun and exciting projects like wayfinding signs and things like that. But again, he's asked me to emphasize that, and I think will give some resources to Steve. In addition to that, as an example, 5.5 years ago when the Public Works Group was reorganized, the Parks Group and Streets Group was combined, and as a part of that process, the airport staff was given to me. So Steve kind of just really indirectly supervised them over this last 5.5 years. I mean, he had input to what they were doing, but in effect, they were directly supervised by me. Well, this change allows me to return direct supervision to those employees to him. So that just allows a little bit cleaner organizational structure, and I think those are the positive things that we'll see out there. And do you have any questions of me?
No, welcome aboard. We appreciate your input to the board.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so continuing on, we will be working on rotating a street light that is to the west downslope of Hangar 24 to illuminate the employee parking area there for the restaurant, for the folks that leave in the hours of darkness. We are talking to our consulting engineers in regards to the possibility of putting some tie downs under the large shade port And again, right now, that's not a priority, but it will be at some point. The D2 hangar development is moving forward around the above-ground fuel tanks. Since our last board meeting, we've had another C-130 come in and a Sky Crane, Sikorsky Sky Crane heavy helicopter. That was a week ago, and I believe they were firefighting over at Needles. Took one drop, and that was the end of the fire. So that was kind of nice. And again, as Mark indicated, MSD and the city, the airport is a top priority, so you'll see more work happening there. The trees at the airport were trimmed last week, I believe. And then sort of a rebrief on the hangar inspections. Airport staff at this point is waiting for documentation from the fire department to include in the mailing. We want to do one mailing out to all of our tenants in regards to the rules, what we expect on the hangar inspections, as well as the fire piece of that, which is slightly different than where I'm coming from because I'm not a firefighter. That all being said, once I have that, we will move forward with that public meeting that was supposed to happen this weekend. That's been put off. I want one bit of information going out to everybody, so I hope that it will limit confusion on that. Per discussions with the fire department, airport staff will be doing these inspections, just airport staff. If we see something we believe is a fire hazard, then we will coordinate with a fire inspector and get them out there to look at it. And as outlined in the past, we're going to be applying the FAA regs as of July of last year. So this is the latest set. We're not going beyond those because I've heard rumors that, oh, you're going to pull a Glendale. No, we're not. And then when the inspections begin, the first set of buildings that we're going to focus on before we move to anything else is the city hangars. So again, I'm reiterating that, and I'm also saying that for the two new people because you've not been through the year and a quarter worth of meetings where we talked about hangar inspections. And then as far as airport events, the 99s have an air rally that will be going on November 9th to the 11th out at the airport. And then, of course, we have the Air Fest that I mentioned earlier with Hangar 24, and that'll be on Saturday, the 4th of November. And any questions?
Any questions from any of the board members, comments? I have some clarifications, I guess, on the FOD grant project.
Mm-hmm.
Has the FAA given us the go-ahead approval on that?
It's an ADOT grant.
It's just ADOT.
It's
not
just
FAA.
ADOT. And
Okay.
so once we get 100% review, and we've pestered them now a couple times, we anticipate then going forward on that. I believe the plans and specs are done, and an advertisement will be probably maybe about a half hour's worth of work. So as soon as we get that go-ahead, we'll move on that.
Is it your sense that we're prepared to self-fund for the difference of the 4.5% matching money for the interim time frame?
The goal is always to have the projects. Well, in this case, this is. Let me back up. The 4.5 is federal. So when we do a federal project and the state matches, it's a 91.06 for the FAA piece. It's a 4.5 for the federal piece. So if we get into a situation where there's an overage, that amount should be relatively small. So I don't anticipate that being an issue. On the FOD grant, it's a 90% state funded and a 10% local. So that doesn't even equate. We're good in regards to that.
Okay. Do you anticipate needing to actually close the runway for the application of the overlay? Or do we anticipate that the runway will be noted for an hour or two or at some point?
I'll include both, three projects here, two of which are grant funded, one which isn't. The electrical vault, We don't anticipate runway closure, and again, the goal, I believe, is going to be to do the majority of that work at night. So there shouldn't be an issue. The FOD project, because we're cleaning up some of the substandard overlay that they did, i.e. runway lips that are 3 inches high, which means if you go off in your 172 or another airplane, you can rip your gear off. And that's not standard. Standard's like 1 inch. In that case, yes, there could be runway closures, but again, the goal is going to be to do all that at night. So the premise here is to not impact, or the least amount of impact to our users, our businesses, and our FBOs as possible. And then the application in a few spots on the runway of the Rejuvenator, the premise there is probably going to be to come out at 4 in the morning, apply that, be done by 5, let it dry for a couple hours, and we should be good. So again, when we do that, we'll have a handheld radio, and we'll be making broadcasts in the blind on 122.70 that the runway is temporarily closed. But the premise is to do it at an odd time to where the opportunity for somebody to come in won't be an issue. The other thing we'll do is contact the FBOs and give them a heads up. So if they know of any customers that are liable to be using the airport on that day, at that time, they can give them a heads up.
Reference the George Molitor Way sign. Do you think it's possible to come up with a date that we could, rather than just hanging a sign out there, have a formal dedication and the EAA participate, the 99s, et cetera, et cetera?
Certainly.
Yeah, that's typical. We actually have a cover that we can cover it up and unveil it. So yeah, if you guys want to pick a date, and we can make that happen, that's not a problem at all. We can construct the sign if it's not already constructed around that schedule. So
I think that, I guess I'm just asking that maybe we could come up with a date. We don't have the sign yet, I don't believe made, but.
Right, but it's not a long process. So I mean, if it's not already made, then we can make that happen in a couple days. So just, find a date that's you're good for, and we can go from there.
Okay, we'll get with staff. I think the appropriate date might be the next EAA meeting, that we might have it out there and do a presentation. Reference Reb Wallace and Bill Haynes. Many people that might be watching this at home probably know these two individuals. Are longtime users of the Lake Havasu City Airport, and their passing is certainly be missed by all of us. I'm going to put our newest member on the spot here and ask for a little more information on the 99's air race that's scheduled.
Okay, what kind of information would you like me to share? Just details?
Just kind of tell everybody what it is and how it's organized and what type of people participate.
So the air rally that the 99s is going to put together, this will be our 2nd annual. We're hoping to do this annually. It's called the Havasu 600, and it's called an air rally, but it's like an air race. And basically, participants are handicapped at their best, fastest speed for their airplane, and they race a course that's total 600 miles, and they go as fast as they can in their airplane, and they're trying to beat that handicap speed at the end. Last year we had, luckily Pam's in the audience, she can correct me if I'm wrong, 11 participants, 11 teams raced. The race takes 2 days. So everybody gets together on Thursday, they take off on Friday, and the route this year is going to start in Mesquite, Nevada, and we will overnight in Borrego Springs, and then ends in Lake Havasu City. The Havasu 600 will end in Lake Havasu every year, and we are honoring one of our longtime members that we lost last year, Tukey Hensley, and her husband Don. So it's the Tukey Hensley Memorial Scholarship Race, the Havasu 600. So all the money that we raise goes towards scholarships aviation scholarships in her name. And last year, we were able to award $2,000 to a member, very well-deserved young lady, Mackenzie Mullahan, who was a Civil Air Patrol member out of Bullhead, and she just recently received her private pilot certificate, was able to use that money to finish her training. So we're real proud of that first year's race. We're hoping to have a lot more participants, and we've got everything kind of laid out. I was talking to Mesquite Airport this afternoon, actually, and so getting things all ready to go. We do give awards, just trophies and stuff. It's a lot of fun. Mr. Stebbins participated last year, so he can give you some
It is a lot of fun.
feedback.
We
Yeah.
had a great time.
So we're looking forward to it. This will be fun.
Okay, any more questions or for Mr. Johnson? Okay, the item 7.1 is a review of the draft airport vision statement. Do you want to go ahead and present your draft?
Yes, I reviewed about probably a dozen or more airport vision statements. I got some input from Rondi Lichtel regarding a vision statement. It seems as though the vision statement needs to be a little bit longer and comprehensive, and also sort of reaches towards things, doesn't tell how it's going to be done, but would suggest this is what we would like to have happen. So you guys can read it on your own if you would like. It's in front of us, and we can discuss from there.
Okay, for the record, there are two of them that are proposed. The draft that our committee came up with is the Lake Havasu City Municipal Airport will provide a sustainable, positive economic impact in support of the current and future needs of the community through aviation services in the private and business sector. It will continue to grow as a leader in business and general aviation services, providing uncompromised safety, exceptional quality, and unparalleled service while operating efficiently and with care for the environment. We want it to use innovation and unique approaches to become the hometown airport that everyone wants to visit and return often. It will offer competitive prices, maintain a friendly atmosphere, and seek opportunities to excel in its mission. The other proposed vision statement that came as a collaboration between staff and other people on the board is shorter, and it states, position and maintain the Lake Havasu City Airport as the airport of choice for the region and fully support the present and future economic needs of Lake Havasu City. They both kind of say the same thing. So open it up to comments from anyone on the board.
I think the reason that I was motivated to continue forward with this vision statement was because it seemed that a lot of the board members were not satisfied with the short version. And in fact, that's how myself and Ben Strader got that mission, to try to come up with something more comprehensive, but not lending itself to a mission statement, keeping it more vision oriented, such as we want to use this, not we will, or here's how we're going to. So that's my input there.
Any comments?
It's been my experience, vision statements are shorter than what he has here. You know, he put a lot of work into this, and it certainly, gives a lot of vision to the airport, but I just believe that when you use terms like we and things like that, that's kind of personalizing it, and a vision statement shouldn't be that way. But I like the first paragraph of that the vision statement that he read, and that would be my input for the vision statement.
So the first sentence, which is the Lake Havasu City Municipal Airport will provide a sustainable, positive economic impact in support of current and future needs of the community through aviation services in the private and business sector.
Yes. My view and education on a vision statement is, it's more or less a strategic statement. And then your mission statement would support that and how you actually do that, so. But I'd like to thank Steve for all of his hard work.
Absolutely. Any comments, Dave?
Just I didn't really have time to look at it, so I'm studying it. But it would be nice if we could consider these and then come back and deal with it maybe at the next meeting. Is that possible?
If that's what the board wants, that can certainly be done. Is it the consensus of the board that we'd like to table this? It's not fair for the two new members who we've just sprung this on to.
I agree with you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to respond, if I could, quickly
Go
to
ahead.
Jeff's statement here. If you wanted to end the vision statement at the word environment, which would include the second sentence, I could live without the rest of it. And I put that on there.
I agree with that. That was kind of what I was thinking as well when I was reading through it the other day. Yeah, I agree with Jeff. The we part is too personal.
Okay.
Yes.
So we have a motion to table?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Without, do we have anybody opposed to tabling it? Okay, we'll table this till next month then. This is a public hearing, and I'm remiss in that I need to open it up to the public for any comments, so would you like to make any comments? Okay, we'll move on to discussion of the airport maintenance budget. And this was requested last month as we continue to go through the budget and see where we're spending money and where we're not spending money. And this is what you were given is just a very snippet of information from the budget, which is all we felt like we could cover. It's interesting that if we look at from fiscal year 03-04 to date, we're looking at about $33,000 total spent on maintenance projects at the airport, which is probably why our tarmac and other things are in the condition that they're in. So I find Mr. Clark's comments refreshing, to say the least, of getting things headed in a different direction and towards maintaining a great airport facility. Let me open up to any other members of the board that have any comments about the budget, or Mr. Clark?
Yes, just wanted to when we met yesterday, but Steve and I have scheduled a meeting with the airport engineer to come on up and talk to us a little bit about maintenance of pavements. Unlike a roadway, I am not going to be allowed to go chip seal your airport, because that would fix it, but it would also cause all kinds of other problems. So that's one of the things that we're hoping to get from them, is some interim improvements. Obviously, we know we can crack fill, but there's a higher standard of crack filling required, so we're going to see how much that costs. We're going to try and prioritize areas and recognize different levels of service needed in other areas. And so again, I think that's what we're looking for. The other thing is we're going to try and really come up with, in preparation for the airport master plan, which will have a lot of these kind of components, we're going to really kind of try and come up with a quick and dirty pavement management plan for the airport, maybe over the next 3 or 4 years, trying to establish some baseline, is it $50,000 a year? Is it $25,000 a year? Is it $50,000 the first year? And then it can be $25,000 a year, just trying to establish some baseline recommendations. And that'll be kind of one of the things that I would ask our pilots and users, if you are aware of things that you see done innovative at other airports related to maintenance, let us know, because I maintain streets, not airports. So they're similar, but again, all I can remember is I think one of the treatments in the mid-90s was some kind of naphtha-based material that the whole city smelled like naphtha for 3 days after it was being done at night, and so there are things that we probably have changed technology-wise. So. They still use that. It's probably toxic. So, but yes, we are, that's the intent, is to move that forward. And I've also, that'll tie in with the budget process, because we really start the budget process November or December, so we can then program for fiscal year 18-19. So,
From my perspective, that's exactly what I like to hear. I like to see a way forward.
Yeah.
Comments from anyone else?
Mr. Chairman, I agree with you, and thank you for making the airport somewhat of a priority, and we can hopefully jump on things and get it back into shape.
just so you know, that my priority is because the city manager has indicated that to me. So it's coming from him, and he's heard the concerns, and that's where we're heading. So thank you.
Anyone else? What I would like to do in preparation for the budget process that's going to start in November is to continue to learn more about the budget. Maybe if for the next meeting that we have, if we could break out the maintenance part of this and the personnel costs a little bit, just so the board can see where we're at.
Yeah. Probably one of the things that Steve can share with you, it's not top secret at all, but the 5 or 10 year line item history is just kind of a good feel for those kinds of things. It's just a spreadsheet with those items. Obviously, you don't want to get lost in the minutia of pencils and papers and office supplies, because that doesn't really impact the airport pavement maintenance. But yeah, that's something that we can provide. That's not a problem. One of the other difficulties may be because of the transition of staff from the airport budget, would have been 5 or 6 years ago, then to the MSD budget and those kinds of things. You probably won't see the dollars related into those salary kind of things. But the reality of it is that at its peak, I think there were 3 plus or minus staff out at the airport, plus yourself and Rondi, and there's basically been 2 plus Rondi and Steve for the last 4 or 5 years. So
Actually, a wee bit different. When I came here, it was 9.
but that was including the Opticoms, I think, or not Opticoms,
Unicom
Unicoms.
operator.
Opticoms are traffic signals.
There you go. Yep. Yeah, it was 9 including them. Then it went to 5. Then it went to 4. For a while there, it was 1.
Yeah.
And now we're back to 4.
Well, those items that you talked about are easily broken out in a spreadsheet.
Well, and it really, you'll see it. I mean, if the administrative costs are $200,000 and then they drop to $100,000, that basically will be your understanding, is those funding went somewhere else and they're just not the budget. But yeah, it'll be obvious. It's really very. We have a antiquated HTE system. It's actually still green screen, but it does a very good job of capturing all costs. So the information is there available to show that. And then one of the things that it'll basically show is that the most significant cost of maintenance at the airport has been the 2 or 3 field staff were there. We really haven't spent a lot of money on materials and or contracting out, and that's probably where the area we're going to have to change, because the answer is that's what we'll probably be doing, is contracting out those maintenance schedules. So,
Well, in my view, the airport board should become aware of these budget items, and the maintenance items, we'll see those as chargebacks when they were taken out of the budget. They were charged back against the fund to recoup that, so that it really comes out. But the goal of the airport board, in my view, should be to provide support to you, to the city council, to justify the budget for the airport.
and I think that'll mainly be useful as it relates to the level of pavement maintenance support or funding, if you will, the big ticket items or whatever.
Right.
So I think that's really where it'll all pencil out, and you'll be able to see that.
I agree completely.
Thank you.
In essence, there are about, if I recall correctly, 5 or 6 major items. So this isn't
Oh, no, there's
no,
20,
no, no. Yeah,
there's 20 or 30 line items on every budget.
no,
whether
no,
it's-
no. But I mean, on ours, I think as far as the major topic
Oh, yeah,
areas,
no, the
there are
reality
only
of it
about
is,
5 or
yeah,
6.
the reality,
And
most of your budget's made up of your administrative staff and.
Yeah, and we can put something together, and depending on how far you want to go back, we could take it to 2002 if you want, and then just show a trend but not, as Mark was warning us, not getting into how many pencils, how many papers, and the specific line
Right,
items.
I agree. One of the basic tenets of the airport board's purpose is to provide input to the city council on the budget items, because we are supposed to have a closer contact to the airport and understand what the needs are. So I take that responsibility pretty seriously, and I'm not sure that, I don't think it's been done in the last 2 or 3 years for sure. I think we need to get smart on the budget and be able to go to the city council and support the maintenance services division with the next budget request for the airport. Are there any other discussion? Do we have any members of the public that would like to talk about the budget at the airport? Seeing none, no discussion, we'll move on. The next item is future agenda. Let me open it up to any member of the board if you have something that you'd like to see on the agenda for next month.
That would include the vision statement.
Yes, sir. So the airport vision statement, and from me to everyone, please try to coalesce around a recommendation so that we can put this to bed. This needs to be done so that it can be presented to the contractor who is to do the master plan, because this becomes the basis, and then they come up with a mission statement, but that's the very first thing in the master plan is the vision statement. Also, I'd like to request the hangar use policy be put back on as a public hearing in case we have any members of the public that want to come and discuss that. I would like to restate for anyone that's watching this on television that the hangar use policy is strictly driven by the FAA. The staff here, with the document that they prepared that'll be mailed out, has not changed that one bit. There will be no additional requirements put forward. So the policies for the use of hangars on a federally obligated airport are set forth within an FAA policy document, and anybody that needs a copy of that document can contact the airport, Mrs. Lichtel or Mr. Johnson, and they can provide them one. They can contact me, and we'll certainly provide you with all the information that you need to get to the Federal Register or provide you with copies of that document from us. So do we have any other items that anyone would like to have?
If I may,
Yes, sir.
I believe we have a presentation from the Civil Air Patrol that we would like to, and I'm stepping into Mr. Sayers' world there, but I believe that they wanted to make a couple meetings ago, and I believe a presentation of the flag as well at the beginning of the meeting.
We can do that.
Do you want that as part of the communication announcements and supervisor report, or as a public hearing?
Wherever it's appropriate on the agenda, it doesn't matter to me.
I'll leave that up to you. It's like, do we have any other issues that anyone would like to bring up? Seeing none, I would entertain the future meetings. The August meeting is Wednesday, August 16th at 2017 at 5:30 here in this facility. So we'd like to invite all the members of the public to attend. Especially, I would certainly like to see people who are tenants at the airport and have hangars come to the meeting and discuss their feelings on the implementation and how it might affect them. So having said that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move that we adjourn the meeting.
Second?
Without objection, the meeting is adjourned.